I'm Gerhard Lazu, and you're listening to ShipIt.show, a podcast about ops, infrastructure, and continuous improvement. For our last 2022 Kaizen episode, we went all out. Jared just outdid himself in the number of improvements shipped between Kaizens. A few of our listeners contributed, and that prompted us to create a new contributing guide, and there's also a new infrastructure diagram. All of this, and a whole lot more, is captured as discussion 433 in our GitHub repository. If you want to see everything that we improved since Kaizen 7, that is a great place to start. Link in the show notes. Big thanks to our partners Fastly and Fly. This MP3 is served with minimal latency from the Fastly Edge location, which is closest to you. Our app and database run on Fly.io because it keeps things simple.
This episode is brought to you by Sentry. Build better software faster, diagnose, fix, and optimize the performance of your code. More than 1 million developers and 68,000 organizations already use Sentry, and that includes us. Here's the easiest way to try Sentry. Head to sentry.io/demo/sandbox. That is a fully functional version of Sentry that you can poke at. And best of all, our listeners get the team plan for free for 3 months. Head to sentry.io and use the code SHIPIT when you sign up. Again, sentry.io and use the code SHIPIT.
We are going to ship in 3, 2, 1.
Our last Kaizen, episode 70, with a single big improvement, IDV3X, Elixir Library with Lars. You know it as episode chapters. So now you can enjoy episode chapters because of that one single improvement. This is Kaizen episode 80 with Jared and Adam.
What's up?
All good.
All good.
But Jared has 24 improvements in this episode. Okay, well, I just have to start there. How did you manage that, Jared?
Kaizen. I'm just Kaizening it. I don't know. There are a lot of little things. Anytime you do a big release or a big feature and you drop it in, there's always a bunch of little things that either you've been putting them off because they haven't been as important, or they're related to the thing that you shipped because it wasn't 100% baked, as was the case with chapters. So lots of little improvements to chapters. And then once you get rolling, you just keep improving all areas of the application. And I hit my stride and made some commits this month.
Once you pop, you can't stop.
That's right.
They do say that about Pringles.
Yeah, exactly. That is okay. That is we have to. Anyways, the point is, once you start improving, you can't stop.
Do you think the word continuous and always are similar or synonymous? Continuous, always, they're kind of the same, right?
I would say they're definitely similar, but yeah,
They're pretty close, right? So we have an ABR method elsewhere, always be recording. So it could be, ABI, always be improving,
always be shipping.
Always be shipping.
always be shipping. ABS, oh, that's right, that's breaks.
Yeah. ABI, always be improving. I like that. I think we mentioned it in the previous Kaizen. Anyways, back to the improvements. Jared, I mean, there was I cannot believe. So we started doing a few things differently for this episode. The first one, there's a GitHub discussion. We'll come back to that later. Secondly, we have GitHub tags for every single Kaizen from Kaizen 1, and now we can compare them. So I was comparing from Kaizen 7 to our main branch. What are the differences? A lot. Jared has been killing it. And you had so many things that you went straight into production rather than PRs, rather than anything like that. So what was your thinking there?
What do you mean? Why don't I open pull requests and then merge them myself?
Something like that, yes, to keep things together.
It's the same reason why I don't run a Docker container on my machine while I'm coding. It's it's unnecessary ceremony when I've already done all of the things. We ship very fast. So if I ship a bug, I can very quickly fix it, which gives me the confidence to just go straight live and just see what happens. I don't know. Should I be doing these pull requests if it's just a bunch of little things and I know what's going on and no one's really going to review my code except for myself? Should I be doing that anyways for some sort of happy trails? Okay.
I don't think so. I think that's one of the GitHub's best and worst features, pull requests. Why do I say that? It forces you to create a branch. It forces you to have some code which is running in parallel to the main branch. And what that means is, what do you do with it? Like, how do you deploy it? You have to set up a lot of stuff, preview environments. I mean, the list goes on and on. Staging, whatever people call it, it's really complicated. What you actually want is to group commits together and maybe have a discussion on those commits, but they shouldn't be on a separate branch. That would be my ideal, where commits that are grouped together are good because we can see how something involves. And we can have a discussion about it, and I tried this bug. So how many follow-up pull requests have people done? The ones that are listening to this podcast? I'm sure many, because you ship a pull request, you think it's finished, there's a new bug. Okay, so there's a follow-up pull request to my initial pull request because I forgot about this thing, which you have to merge again and so on and so forth. So I wish GitHub behaved differently when it comes to pull requests.
Can we dig into that a little bit? How would you do that then? Like, what would be the experience for that? Because wouldn't branches be the most logical way to natively get, in the Git realm, not the GitHub realm, separate, your main branch, your master branch, or whatever from other code to give it its own lane, so to speak? How else would you group commits?
Well, if you could attach a commit with some metadata to a pull request, which is just a virtual object, and you're done, the pull request is finished when maybe you flip a feature flag. And by flipping the feature flag, that feature is live. Everyone has access to it. But you keep shipping into production, you don't enable it for everyone, and when it feels like it's done, you're done. If there's still bugs, well, guess what? You can do follow-up commits, attach to the same pull request, and it's still like the same logical grouping. I think that would make more sense.
But it still lives in the master main branch, basically.
Yeah, everything goes on the main branch, yes.
Okay.
So does the grouping only exist then on the platform? Like it doesn't exist inside of Git? Or you're hoping this would be a feature of Git itself?
Maybe both. Maybe both. I mean, I don't know who has the appetite for this, but pull requests are a GitHub thing.
Yeah.
Right? They don't exist in Git. Branches exist in Git. So if pull requests were a first class thing in Git, I think that would make more sense.
Right.
I think.
Well, the very first users of Git do not use, or did not use historically, I'm not sure what they do now, pull requests. They use patches. So the Linux kernel, for which Linus made Git to collaborate around, they were all about, I'm not up to date, emailing patches.
Right.
And so it wasn't like you said, pull requests were very much an invention of GitHub and have been copied. I mean, they're called merge requests over on GitLab, which I think is actually a more accurate name, but sorry, pull request has the inertia, so it just doesn't quite land the same way, but they're pretty much identical thoughts on different platforms, neither of which were a Git native action.
Yeah. I do like the pull request representation, where you can have a discussion, you can link to other pull requests, you can link to issues, you can solve issues, you can add images. I use that a lot, screenshots, videos, a lot of things. So it's great for a discussion. I find that richness, sharing that information and being able to refer back to it, so useful.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's like a biography, too, of what happened. So going back to triage or learn from mistakes or learn from, positive things, too. You can totally do that with a well-done issue or a well-done PR.
So that felt like a segue back to the 24 improvements. I'm looking at the list right now. There's like so many things there.
Do you want to talk about any of these in particular?
Well, which ones do you want to talk about? Because they're all yours.
Right.
Which felt interesting, which felt unexpected, anything?
Unexpected?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Keep going.
So when commit 19, when I fixed a bug, that was unexpected because I didn't expect there to be bugs in my code. So a lot of this was follow-ups to chapters and kind of finishing or rounding out the chapters feature, allowing for the attachment of images to chapters, adding chapter support in the on-site player, which is still a first draft of the feature, but was a small enough feature that I could do it in an afternoon. So a lot of chapter related stuff. I also did some kind of one-off things that I've been waiting to do. All of our Medium posts go to Scribe now, which is just a quality of life improvement for our readers when we link to Medium, because Scribe is like basically, remember Instapaper, where you would take a URL and then get the Instapaper view? Now built into many browsers, like Safari has the reader view. A lot of them have that. Scribe is kind of like that for Medium posts, where you can just take the post, direct it to Scribe instead, and it gives it a nice reading experience without all the Medium cruft that we don't like so much, because Gosh, I hated linking to Medium because of the reader experience. Sucks, my opinion. But there's so much good content there that it was compelling. And I didn't want to turn people away just because they're on Medium, but we used to a little bit. I'd email them and say, hey, write this on your own domain and I'll link to it. This is a much better answer. If the content's good, we want to be able to link to it. And now we have just a better reading experience. So that was one that I've been waiting to do. And once chapter was done, I kind of had no excuse not to. Notably, we switched to, or we didn't switch to, but we started to integrate the Open Podcast Prefix project, op3.dev. We had a whole show of our Backstage podcast talking to John Spurlock all about that project. And we told him at the end of that show, yeah, we'll give it a shot. We'll send you our data. And so I did that. Pretty easy change, but hopefully a profound one. And then just a bunch of cleanup, things that we didn't need. One thing that we get a lot of is spam. And the reason we get a lot of spam is because historically, podcast RSS feeds required you to have a working email address in your feed. And so editors at changelog.com for years and years and years has existed in all of our feeds. And all these podcast spammers who either want to come on your shows or want to sell you something, they just crawl all the indexes. Apple Podcasts required this. And they grab all the email addresses of everybody who has a podcast. And they email you as if they're your best friend. And they're emailing 45 million people or whatever it is. Until recently, Apple actually removed that requirement. And so the iTunes owner element is no longer required. It actually doesn't do anything. And so we can remove that, which means we've removed that email address from our feeds, which means less spam over the long run, which is exciting. So little stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of amazing improvements, I have to say. Even now, they read as one-liners. And I enjoyed very much seeing them in our dev Slack channel as they keep rolling in. That's very nice. I really enjoy that, by the way. That's one of the things that we improved for Kaizen 7. And seeing those improvements coming through was very nice. But it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes here, and they add up over 2.5 months. There's a lot of stuff there. So it's great to see that. Amazing. Talking about contributions and improvements, I want to give a shout out to Josep, Luis, Girald, Lacoste, Pep for short. Maybe I should have started with that. Pull request 415. That was open since May 2022. So May earlier this year. Yeah, that's been open for a while. He is a Ship It listener, and I think it was in response to one of the Ship It episodes. Thank you very much, Pep, for that pull request. And I noticed it in August, and I finally merged it for Kaizen 8. So that made me very happy to get it in. Now, he was asking whether he can get a Kaizen t-shirt, and at the time, we didn't have them in the merch store, but now we do. Now, I'm wondering, you two are already wearing them, so that's great. I'm still waiting for mine. That is amazing. I'm wondering if we can send maybe Pep a t-shirt, a Kaizen t-shirt. What do you all think?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Nice.
Ship it.
Okay. Yes,
Ship
please.
that shirt.
All right, Pep. So hopefully you're listening to this. And if not, that's okay. We'll get your posting address somehow. We'll see how we get a t-shirt to you.
Well, it's easier than that. We just give them a coupon code to the merch store, and they go there and use the code themselves, order whatever. They may not even get the Kaizen shirt. He may get something else.
We have his email. We can spam him. Okay, so Pep, he'll be spammed.
This is the kind of spam you want to get,
Oh, yes. That's amazing. Okay, cool. Now, someone else that I wish we could send a Kaizen t-shirt to is Noah Betson. He has 2 pull requests. Pull request 428, we got it merged, where Elixir was bumped from 113 to 114.
Right.
And Erlang OTP from 24 to 25. Now, if this sounds familiar, that's exactly what we did for Kaizen 7, the previous Kaizen, and Noah did it for Kaizen 8. How amazing is that?
Now, I tried to merge that one and failed. I think there's more to the story here. Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves, but you finally got it. I couldn't do it. I wasn't cool enough. Gerhard, you're cooler than I am, so it ended up landing eventually. But I think we should definitely send Noah a t-shirt too. I mean, if Pep gets one, Noah's got to get one, right?
Definitely. Those are the 2 noteworthy contributions. Great improvements. Thank you both. Now, there is a related pull request where I explained how to use the Docker that we have deployed on Fly.io to build images. But the gotcha is that if you Docker login and you Docker login locally targeting a remote Docker engine, the login, the auth, gets configured locally, not on the remote engine. So what that means is even though you appear to be authenticated, the remote engine cannot push images because remotely it doesn't have that auth token. So it can't talk to the registry, in our case, Docker Hub. So all of that is going to improve, all of that. But I think we will leave it for a bit later.
Okay, so let's focus in on these fly Docker situation because this is very cool. This solved a pain point in my life, which has been there for years, which is local Docker for Mac, slowness, having to have it installed, having to upgrade it, deal with it, and just the disk space usage of that sucker has been significant. And I don't have to do that anymore because we run our Docker on fly, and I just set, what do you set, like remote server or something? There's some sort of environment variable you set.
Docker host.
Export
Docker host. Yeah.
And because it's client server software, I just have to run the client, the server's on fly, all of the nasty bits that I don't want on my machine are on fly. And that's just super cool. I've been using it a lot because I've been setting up some Mastodon stuff on fly, which is using Docker containers in addition to our stuff. And that's super cool. Is this just like common practice now that I wasn't aware of, Gerhard? Was this a grand idea of yours? What's the deal here?
Yeah, I don't think it's common practice. This is actually, if anything, not common because like of issues like I mentioned, like your client is logged in, authenticated locally, but the remote engine isn't, like weird things like that, definitely edge cases. And the reason why I set this up was for our CI. So I think Kaizen 7 or even Kaizen 6, we had the issue where we were targeting the same Docker engine that was running in my shelf. I kid you not. It's a very beefy machine, but it's just running in my shelf.
That's right. It was at your house.
And the GitHub Actions runner was connecting using Tailscale to that host. But the problem is I was using the same Docker engine for like my local development, this, that, and the other. And then there were issues when the CI was trying to use it too. So again, there's a pull request. I will link it in the show notes. So to fix that, to improve that situation, I've configured a Docker engine on fly. Again, I think it was in the previous Kaizen where this was mentioned. And I added pull request 426. That's the last one, September 22nd. That's when it was merged, to basically capture how to use that Docker engine on the fly. So not only our CI is using it, we are using it too. But again, we have to be careful with that because we can create issues if we share the same Docker engine. So that's something to improve further for sure.
Well, it's a cool hack, and I'll say it's a better hack than the previous one, which was to run it from your shelf. You know, we're pretty open here and open to criticism, open to ridicule. You know, our code has always been open. Our infrastructure has always been open. We don't get easily embarrassed. That one is like darn near like, seriously, guys, you're running your production business websites stuff with
just a CI. It's okay.
just a little bit of that infrastructure, you know, in Gerhard's office.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or a closet or wherever that shelf exists. So I'm glad. I think it's definitely a Kaizen. We've continuously improved from there, and we've moved it off there into a fly VM.
This is going to improve even further, but I think we should leave that a bit later. Dagger has a lot to do with that, and all this year has been about Dagger for me. So, anyways, there's something big coming. So let's leave it for a bit later. An even bigger improvement from Noah that is waiting to be reviewed and merged is pull request 430. He added support RSS feeds for specific topics, especially combining current feed and topic functionality. Now, this was branched of pull request 390. That was opened last year by Hale Lagi or Legi. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. So there's two PRs in one. And I think we mentioned this briefly, maybe offline. What do you think about that one, Jared?
I mean, I'm definitely down with the feature. I think I approved the feature conceptually years ago when Hale began working on it. And I think he got some stuff working, wasn't quite there. I think the implementation, I code reviewed the implementation and said, why don't we do it this way? And said, we already have a feed controller. Let's just reuse that versus putting it over in the topic controller area of the code base. And then life happened and he was just never able to get back around to it, never, past my threshold of things that I'm going to actively work on. So it just kind of sat there. So it was super cool to see kind of a handoff of this feature to somebody else. And I haven't looked at this PR recently, but in terms like spiritually, I'm there. Like, we're definitely going to merge the feature when it's ready to go. I think it's cool. Certain people just care about certain topics. And it's like, why not have a feed of I mean, we have feeds. They're just HTML feeds of topics. And so why not have RSS feeds of those topics? It's a no-brainer. So happy to have it in there.
It's a long time WordPress feature, basically, to have your tag or your topic be, feedable, essentially. So I agree with the usefulness of it, because for a while there when we were on WordPress, like, we would encourage that. That's what we would say, track Ruby by just tracking the tag via RSS. That way you don't have to get the whole kit and caboodle. You can just get the one thing, which is what kind of everybody wants, right? Just the slice, not the whole pie.
A similar feature is just author-based. We don't post that many posts, but even news perhaps. Publication's bigger than ours. I've definitely had certain authors that I appreciate, but I'm not going to subscribe to The Verge's feed. Like, I just not going to do it because they're going to publish 12, 15, 20 things a day and overwhelm me. But this author, I want to know when they write something new. And The Verge did not provide that as a feature. I think Feedbin actually allowed me to like filter a feed, which is kind of cool, down. But I think author-based feeds, I think that's something that WordPress also does by default. And I would definitely appreciate that even on ours, even if like, 2 people use it. It's a pretty easy feature once you've already done it for topics. It's the same concepts on a different object. So I would also merge something like that.
Nice. Does it mean that Kaizen can have its own feed?
Kaizen can have its own feed because there's a Kaizen topic now, right?
Yes, there is. Sweet.
Yep. So that's all it needs.
Okay. That's really cool.
Yeah. Like if you only like the Kaizen episodes, boom.
Yeah.
You don't like any of Gerhard's interviews. What's wrong with you?
Exactly. I don't know, but that's fine. I run things on my shelf.
The consumer isn't always a listener. It could be somebody who's like publishing a web page. It's similar to the way we did when we were on GitHub Explorer forever ago. Like, they would just pull from the podcast tag only, but it was one feed, so they would filter it. So there could be a usefulness where it's like not liking it.
Yeah.
Hey friends, this episode is brought to you by my friends and potentially your friends too at Fire Hydrant. And I'm here with Robert Ross, founder and CEO of Fire Hydrant. And Robert, there are several options out there for incident management, but what is it that makes Fire Hydrant different?
The reason that we think that Fire Hydrant is onto something is because we're meeting companies really where they are. We faced the same problems that every company in the industry that is building and releasing software is also facing. So we want people to be able to sign up for Fire Hydrant and immediately be able to kick off an incident using the best practices that we've built and we've experienced and have gathered through the other amazing customers that use our tool. It really is a very quick time to value. And we want people to have a long jump from where they are to where they want to be in incident management.
I love it. Thank you, Robert. Small teams up to 10 people can get started for free with all Fire Hydrant features included. There's no credit card required to sign up. They are making it too easy to get started, so check them out at firehydrant.com. Again, firehydrant.com.
So I've been, dabbling into our Spotify. This is a bit upstream from where we were, but Spotify has a lot of people who've never discovered us before. So like, you want to be there, you want to be visible, new people listening to your stuff is cool. And so they have playlists inside of Spotify, and I've been over there creating certain playlists. Like, it'd be cool to have a Kaizen playlist in Spotify, but I don't want to go into Spotify and create a Kaizen playlist and manage it. Like, it would be cool. This is never going to happen, but Spotify robot is what we need to like basically mirror our topic feeds into different indexes. And then you could have, for instance, our dev game shows is a manual playlist I create over there for our front end feud episodes and our Go Panic episodes. And it exists over there because I go over there. We do them infrequently enough that I go add them. I'm like, here it is. It's all, it's dev game shows. Well, that should just be a topic on our platform that then just gets like syndicated into places. And then we'd be cooking with gas. But a Kaizen feed on site is awesome. But if that could be mirrored into Spotify,
Oh, yes.
even cooler.
We can dream. We can dream.
I would definitely send a Kaizen t-shirt to a pull request that did something like that.
Yeah, the Kaizen is young. Ship it is young. Lots of things can happen, yeah.
Yeah, publishing bot.
Cool. Now, all these improvements, all this talk of improvements, I'm sure you, dear listener, you're thinking, okay, I want to contribute. How do I do that? Pull request 434 was created for that. It's a new contributing guide and includes how to set up our app locally for development. It does not involve Docker. Okay?
No Docker.
So brew, that's all you need. And I did this on a clean Mac OS 12. Linux help is wanted. So if you want a Kaizen t-shirt, there's the hint for you.
These are like, you put a Kaizen shirt on a stick and dangle it in front of people.
Pretty much. All he doesn't want it. Well, by the way, you can also buy them. This is a free one, just to make it clear. How many do we have on the store, Adam? What's our stock level like? Do we still have any left, by the way?
We do. It's not massive, but it's enough.
Okay.
But now that we have this all set up, I mean, restocking is easier than it was the first time when we had to actually create the design, submit the design. Now it's kind of in the system and restocking is not a huge problem. But we're definitely getting low because they've been on the store for maybe 6 weeks and we just started talking about it and they've been selling. So
Okay, nice.
either buy now or code now.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Contribute to changelog.com, the repo.
So we've got, we're getting kind of low already. Let's say we got 7 each of large, medium, and small, 11 of XL, and 15 of 2XL. But I think that 2XL is not correct. So I ordered 4, and then the increment didn't go down. So I think that could be more like 11 of that one too. So we're pretty shallow on our stock for it. So if you want to get one, contribute, or you want to buy one, do it now.
Plus Gerhard needs one.
1? I thought 4. I'm getting 4. 5, actually, for every day of the week.
One for each.
Yeah, 1 for each. Cool. So coming back to 431, I know that, Jared, you reviewed it. You had the question about the DCO. Why do we need it and what it is? What did you think of that PR overall, apart from the DCO? We can go into that next.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. I like the idea of putting all of our contributing stuff in its own file, its own place in the repo. The README was getting excessively long. It was pretty outdated. Like, it probably still kind of worked, but nobody's really actively using that flow. We all develop locally anyways. And so why have a flow for contributions that's different than what we do? I think the reason for that was cross-platform compat. We want everybody to be able to contribute, but in reality, it wasn't good. So this is better. I do think it's a step. I would rather have a better story. And I think there's lots of cool opportunities. Have you guys seen DevEnv? That's just a Nix-based one that I saw just yesterday. Put it on Changelog News. Potentially a way that we could do it. It's cross-platform. It's a native, like it's not inside containers. And all of our stuff is pretty stock. Like, okay, Elixir and Erlang's a little bit rare, but other than that, it's Postgres and it's like ImageMagick and Node, right?
Do we even need ImageMagick? I don't think we need it.
I mean, you don't need it for development unless you're actually working on that feature. Like, the app will run without it, but you do need it just for like avatar resizing and stuff. So to be 100% running the site, you would need it, but for 99%, you would not need it.
Cool. So what I'm going to do now is to remember to add ImageMagick. I'm leaving myself a comment.
On the PR.
Put that in
On
the
the PR.
contributor's guide as a dependency.
I'm looking at the README that you changed. So I'm excited about this because I've been waiting for a more thorough guide because I'm tired of asking Jared and he's probably tired of asking me to help me set up my local setup. And it's always like, do I have all the right steps? Help me understand what the specifics are. Like, do I need ImageMagick, for example? Like, what do I need to have to just contribute small things like footer changes, other changes that I can take care of that I tend to like push off because I don't have a dev environment set up. So I've actually been digging into my own like dot files and automation and stuff like that. So, because I just did a clean install of a Mac just for the fun of it. So we're kind of like right in the same spot, Gerhard. So I'm going to go through this myself and I'll be your first guinea pig because I'm excited to do this.
Do you know what? I'm going to add you as a reviewer on this pull request. See, pull requests are really useful, super useful for stuff like this. And get people to look at it, try it out, see what works, like have that conversation, which is around a specific issue. To be honest, I would have liked this to be already in. I would have preferred that, because if something is not right, that's okay. We can just iterate in the final place. We don't have to keep it like on the side, because it's just the inventory.
Yeah, we can merge it, and then if he finds changes, follow up.
But then we need to submit follow-up pull requests. So that's the most annoying part. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This is where I guess it would be nice to live in master or main, depending upon the age of your repo, for example, where your initial idea we talked about early in the show kind of plays in hand, where it's like separate branch, separate pull request, kind of gets kludgy UX wise. Question on the DCO, is that in line with or similar to like being verified, like your commits being verified? I know that this is different, but is it in the same realm? Like, would we like to have verified commits? I know, Jared, you're not a verified committer. You commit code that you're not verified.
I got a bunch of open tabs right now.
Okay. I can help you with that. It's really easy. If you already have 1Password, it's even super easier. They made some cool stuff. I love the 1Password SSH integrations. If you have a Touch ID Mac and you're not doing 1Password, if you're familiar with this, Gerhard, please praise it up, because I love it.
I am.
You literally biometrically sign your commits with your finger, and you can't SSH into a machine or commit to your Git repo, even locally, before you push it. Your commit locally, git commit -m message, is signed via a biometric press on 1Password. So cool. I don't recommend it for machines that are remote, because you literally have to have the UI. Because if not, you'll get stuck in the the prompt. But then they have some instructions on how to sign your commits, which is like a couple additions to your Git config, and you're off to the races. It's really, really easy.
I'm smelling a pairing session here, and if not, then I'm disappointed.
No, it's super easy, and I'm loving it. Honestly, I'm just so stoked with like the stuff they did. I have some improvements I'd love to see them do, but they made some great strides already with like biometrically signing Git commits and like SSHing and using SSH keys. It's so cool.
Now, can I just take my GPG key and add it to keychain and not have to?
That's the old way.
Oh.
That's the old way. The new way is using the SSH key. So you can sign using the SSH key. That's something GitHub supports it. GitHub will verify your signature.
So I already have an SSH key is what you're saying.
You
so
do.
Why not?
Exactly.
It's all right. I got a 10-year-old SSH key just sitting right there.
That's it. You put it in 1Password, do the configuration.
Oh, I just setting up a GPG right now. So I didn't need to set up this GPG key?
Nope, you don't. No.
Doggone it.
That's the old way. That's the old school way.
Do you rotate your SSH keys often, Gerhard?
Sore subject. That's
That's how we started.
I was gonna say that's a long
6 years ago. That was like, hey Jared, what you do with this old key? You got SSH. That's how old it
I
is.
told you, we're not easily embarrassed. In fact, it was so old, was that Ubuntu wouldn't let me SSH in.
Exactly.
It was like,
You
no, your algorithm is too old.
It's too old, yeah.
It's like a 10-year-old SSH key. I've never seen such a thing. Like, what is this thing?
What? I connect to so many machines. I don't want to have to rotate that thing.
Right.
Not
you
anymore.
should.
Now I connect to like nothing. But back then.
Tell me if this is overboard. So the one thing I don't like about 1Password currently is that if you create the SSH key within it, it doesn't let you create a passphrase, which I think is super weird. I like creating passphrases for mine, but the user experience makes you put it in all the time. But I like to generate a 100-character passphrase for my SSH key, because like, who's ever going to crack a 100-character, passphrase? It's probably just impossible. But is that what you do, Gerhard? Like, how do you deal with these kind of like little things like this? Like, do you passphrase every SSH key? Of course, right? That's the best security, because if not, you only have the keys themselves to sort of authenticate. If you don't have a passphrase, it's just pair them up.
So I used to have my YubiKey part of the whole SSH thing, and the YubiKey would use to generate the same passphrase. So my passphrase for my SSH keys used to be something that I knew joined with what my YubiKey was generating.
I see. So something memorable.
Exactly, yeah. Something memorable that I knew.
My brain is 1Password, basically. Like, it is, I skip all the memory in me. I don't have a clue what my passphrase is.
So that's what I used to have. And the problem was that there were issues with the YubiKey. It was not just the YubiKey, but it was like the software. The support was a bit patchy, and then there were like new upgrades. So I had this physical key. I'm still using it for two-factor authentication as a backup. I also have my phone. So if my phone gets lost, my YubiKey has all the OTP tokens. So that's a separate issue. And also like now 1Password. So I basically have triple redundancy for my
Of course you do.
time, as you would, right? Too exactly.
As
so
you
that's
would.
one. Yeah, as you would. The other thing is
Not me, as you would, Garrett.
so one part. So
Careful.
coming back to 1Password, I do add my SSH keys there. I can't like you mentioning them not having pass phrases. I can't remember that. That was something recent which I changed.
Yeah, they don't. If you create it within 1Password, there is no passphrase created. It just creates it.
Right.
Now, I prefer to do it via the command line myself and import it because I can create the passphrase myself. That could be maybe I don't understand how to use it, but I don't think so. I'm holding it wrong potentially, but I don't think it creates a passphrase if you create the SSH key inside of 1Password, which you can do. I think it's super cool because, I mean, like for those who don't want to touch the command line, that's like a GUI essentially for creating an SSH key. And you could choose RSA, you could choose curve 25519, whatever you want to choose. You know, you can go either direction. But I'd like to do it via the command line because I know I can create a passphrase there and then I just import it into 1Password.
Yeah, that's what I do too. That's exactly what I do too, yes.
I'm curious about your OTP stuff with the YubiKey, which I've never set up, but in terms of an app authenticator, I've been using UI Verify. I don't know if you use this or not, but like UI Verify to me is like the best. I don't know, will that focus for you guys?
I can see it. That's really cool.
Oh, it's my face. Sorry. Try Face ID first.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard UI Verify.
That's all the things I have in there, which you can sort of see. That blue line up top will rotate through. You can see how long you have to put the code in.
Where's yours, Jared? Where's yours?
For those on audio, Gerhard and Adam are holding their phones up to their cameras to show each other their
The OTP
current
tokens.
OTP tokens.
That's right.
Quick, type that in before it rotates.
Oh, yeah.
So here's my problem with those things. I upgrade my phone and I inevitably forget that I need to back that sucker up and I wipe my old phone. And then I've lost access to like the 6 most important things in my life. And then I got to go to that site and I got to say, hey, it's me. And I lost my one-time, my off token verifier app. And they're like, here, send us a picture of your photo ID. And I do that 6 times. And I tell myself, this might be worse than having a little bit less security.
That's why I need a backup. You need a backup, seriously. Yeah, so you have it on your phone. 1Password supports it, by the way. So you can have your OTP keys in 1Password on top of your phone.
I saw that, but I didn't know how it worked. And I was already using UI Verify, so I was like, I'll just use this. So I'd love to hear or point to a blog post or something, documentation that you're aware of. Because I was like, okay, cool, but I also have it here already, so I'll just keep using what I got.
Yeah, let's share them post-show. But you definitely want, like, because as you mentioned, if you upgrade your phone, something goes wrong, your phone gets stolen, what do you do then?
Yeah, you're totally locked out. You don't regularly back up your UI Verify, do you, Adam? If you don't, you're going to be in the same boat I'm in when I forgot to and upgraded. And I'm like, dang it, there's like all the serious things. I can't get into like the most important things.
That's true. If I lost my phone and I wouldn't be able to move the data over, I'll have to test that theory. But for me, my most recent phone upgrade, I just moved the data from one phone to the other. I didn't do it through the cloud. I went from phone to phone, waited 3 hours, was patient. So I feel like that's the best way to get everything.
Yeah, I do a restore from backup.
I don't like backups. I like to go phone to phone direct. It's problems with the cloud.
That's yucky though, because any problems you had on that old phone are now on your new phone. Whereas if it's just the backups of the things that are good, it's cleaner. But you don't get that UI Verify, or I was using Google Authenticator. Same idea, right?
Well, it did come over. That was the thing with this time. That's why I was sharing that with you. Is like when I moved my data from my phone to the new phone.
Well, phone to phone you would, yeah, but from the cloud you wouldn't, or I didn't. And that's how I lost access to so many things.
Well, there's definitely some holes in the process for sure. What I like about it, and what I'm sad that you don't embrace this because of all this pain you feel, is that really it's like the best way to be authenticated, because like your face is your face, your phone is your phone, as you know. And to me, like things like GitHub, especially when you got like supply chain security issues, like to me, like if more people verified their commits, took the time to do, maybe we should write this blog post, Garrett, because like I feel like it could be a very big help.
I think so.
I feel like if more people did just the verification on the Git commits, which is like tied back to your SSH key, and there's many ways you have to like put that key into GitHub. It has to authenticate with them. Then they have the GH auth locally, which you can sort of authenticate to as well, which is all part of this process. Verifies your commits. Same thing for your SSH, like in 1Password, it's going to be super easy. But then also this two-factor authentication, like these OTP codes, to me, like that's the best way to ensure it's you. And it's worth the pain. I'm like, I wouldn't do it for every app in the world, but more and more supporters, I'd just embrace it. Like GitHub in particular. Cal.com, like I don't want people to not be me on Calendar. So Cal.com is there, Slack's there, GitHub's there, Unify, Ubiquity, that's there.
There's still one pull request, which I didn't have time for. But between this episode recording and the episode shipping, there's a week. So a week is like a year in my world. So I'm hoping that this PR will land. And that's basically the migration between LastPass and 1Password. We mentioned this in Kaizen 7. I think even before we talked about it. So I think part of that, we can also help everyone configure SSH via 1Password for those that use it. I use it. You use it. Jared will use it. Yes, he's nodding.
Well, we have it, so he should use it. I mean, it's too easy.
Exactly. Yeah. And then once we do that, all the secrets, I mean, by the way, they are already in 1Password. I migrated them from LastPass to 1Password. I just haven't finished all the integration with our infrastructure, with Fly, all of that stuff. But I think part of this should be how to configure your SSH key, how to sign your Git commits, because it's all like this one tool. The problem is we are depending on a lot of things on 1Password. So what worries me is, what is the backup plan? If that was to fail, what do we do?
Yeah.
Just being paranoid, I'm sure.
Because it is cloud-based, right? Like if they were attacked or they were compromised, like it is a centralized point of failure, and it is cloud-based too. There isn't like local copies. You have to authenticate to the cloud, and it's all internet connection required, right?
We do have local copies, but it's all like synced from the cloud. So if the cloud gets corrupted,
right, precisely.
Like the vaults would get corrupted, all the local vaults.
I think you're knocking on the door of an episode on Ship It with them, because I think I've got questions for them. If you wouldn't mind, I'd join you on that show if you were open to a guest host or whatever, because I've got questions. Like there's some things around the SSH authentication stuff. I've got questions about improvements. Just curious about where they're going with it, because I think it's great how it is currently, but there is improvement, Kaizen. And I'm just curious like how we leverage it in our infrastructure and then also individually as users.
I like it, definitely. So that's coming up in PR form as also in Ship It episode form.
If they say yes.
Well, someone will say yes.
Someone will.
There's someone that, knows 1Password really, really well will say yes.
We'll take anybody, the janitor,
Exactly.
somebody who's...
What do you know about the SSH integration?
What is SSH?
What's up, friends? This episode is brought to you by SourceGraph. With the release of SourceGraph 4.0 and the Starship event just a few weeks behind us, it's super clear that SourceGraph is becoming not just code search, but a full-on code intelligence platform. And I'm here with Joel Kortler, product manager of Code Insights for SourceGraph. Joel, this move from code search to code intelligence is a really big deal. How would you explain this feature, Code Insights, if you're just talking to folks in the hallway track of your favorite conference?
I would really start with the technical, because before I was product manager, I used to be an engineer as well. And it's really cool and exciting just to be able to say, we're going to turn your code base into a database. And the structured language that you need to interact is just the ability to write a code search. Literal search, that's totally fine. Regular expression, that'll give you a few more advanced options, even a structural search. But the number of long tail possibilities it unlocks, truly the journey of building this product was just saying, well, we've just unlocked, an infinite number of possibilities. We got to figure out some immediate use cases so we can start to, invest in this product, build it and sell it. but we're only getting started in terms of the number of uses that we're uncovering for it. The story I told you about discovering like version tracking turned out to be a really important use case that wasn't even on our roadmap 6 months prior to discovering that, as we were already planning to launch this product, until we talked to enough folks, realized this was a problem, and then found, well, oh, that's like a simple regular expression capture group that you can just plug right in, because we really built this system to not limit the power of what we built. We don't want to give you like 3 out of the box templates and you can only change like 1 character or something. It's truly like the templates are there to hold your hand and get you started, but if you can come up with anything you'd want to track in your code base, you can do that with Code Insights.
I love it. Thank you, Joel. So right now there is a treasure trove of insights just waiting for you, living inside your code base. Your code base is now a queryable database thanks to SourceGraph. This opens up a world of possibilities for your code and the intelligence you can gain from it. A good next step is to go to about.sourcegraph.com/code-insights. The link will be in the show notes. See how the teams are using this awesome feature. Again, about.sourcegraph.com/code-insights. Again, this link is in the show notes.
One thing which I haven't mentioned, and I was convinced that we'll start the episode with this, was GitHub discussion 433. A lot of the things that we talked about and other things are in that GitHub discussion. This is the first one of the kind. It's on our GitHub, and it contains all the links, all the references, all the comments for what we talked about in this episode. We're trying something new. It's an open-ended discussion. You can ask questions. You can even maybe suggest someone from 1Password that wants to join us on that episode. So everything is there. And it's something that can be open for a while, right? We don't have to close it. We can leave it open. And as we start preparing for Kaizen 9, we could create another discussion for Kaizen 9 ahead of time, just to give people a bit more visibility as to what's coming for our most loyal Kaizen followers. Just an experiment. We'll see where it goes. But there's a lot of stuff there. Now, I must mention the diagram. But before I do so, does anyone want to mention anything else about this discussion?
Well, I want to point out a few things for it. So when you go to this discussion, what Garrett's saying is like for each Kaizen, we're going to have an open discussion where normally these details were behind the scenes, sort of as preparatory show notes, and they didn't live in the wild, basically. And so what he's proposing and what we're doing with this one as an experiment is to put it out there in the open. So we can use it, but then you can also follow along. But one thing I see there when you go to this page is this tag up there that says almost there. What is this UI? Tell us about like what you see there to know, like, is this current? Is it stale? Is it old? Like, how do you know the status of this discussion so that you can sort of play a part?
Oh, I see. Okay. So that's using shields.io. And I think we also used it in the README, which is basically those, how do you call them? It's not bubbles. What do you call them?
Badges.
Badges. That's it. Thank you. It's the badges, yes, that usually people put in READMEs on GitHub. You see them in repository. So that's a badge, and it's like of a certain style. It's like a traffic light system. So it's red when it's work in progress, stop sort of thing. We are very heavily working on it. Orange, get ready, almost there. We're recording it, or we're very close to recording it. And green, once the episode ships. So that's what I'm thinking.
Isn't there labels in there and stuff like that too, though? Couldn't you do that with labels? Like, because that's like static in the...
Yeah, I could.
Right? Like, you got to like manually update. Like, you're going to have to go back there and say last updated on November, not 15th, like it is now, 17th or whenever you next go up there, and then change it from saying almost there to shipped or... So it's a very manual thing. Like, is there a way to do some of this stuff with like labels and other things, or?
Possibly. I mean, I'm adding a lot of content anyways to that description. So that is iterating. So changing a few characters is the least. There's like so many other things happening behind the scenes because I'm editing that discussion, like the first one. I'm editing the first post or the first comment, which starts the whole discussion. And a lot of stuff is being added, which is basically a summary of everything that we did in 2.5 months. And that there tends to be a lot of stuff. So labels, yes, maybe, might work. But I think a badge, it's good in that, like we are used to seeing badges on GitHub READMEs, build is passing, build is failing, things like that. So that is meant to signal the state of something. And I think a traffic light system is what we are familiar with from the real world. So I quite like that.
So if it was green, it'd be like, this is shipped or this is sort of done and baked. Feel free to comment, but what's planned here is now done.
And again, I haven't figured out like all the stages that the discussion goes through. I'm still figuring it out.
Right. These mermaid flowcharts, though, I've seen lots of things. Like even GitHub Universe came out recently with like blocks and stuff. So like this is similar, like a lot of interactive things you could put in here. This is a mermaid flowchart that you're talking about. It's marked down, right? Like it's text.
That is one of my favorite features. Oh yes, it is text. It is all text. So I'm using mermaid.live to have that live continuous feedback loop as I work on the chart. So you can see how the chart changes in real time as you change something in the graph itself. The chart that Adam is referring to, and you'll see it in this discussion, GitHub discussion 433, shows our current setup, all of it. Fly, GitHub Actions, Sentry, Docker Hub, LastPass, everything, all the services that we use, how the app runs, PostgreSQL replication, the whole thing. So that took quite a while to build, but I'm very happy with it because it captures a point-in-time snapshot of what we are currently running. And OP3 was mentioned. Now that's interesting. I didn't know how that interacts. So things like that we can add to this diagram, and we can also have links. So that means that like some of these elements, you can click on them and all of a sudden you're in Fly looking at the metrics that are part for the app directly from this. Obviously, if you can't authenticate, if you're not part of our team, you can't access that. But if you are, just click on that and there you are. Also, when things change, we can submit a pull request that shows what changed in that chart. So this is something which hasn't been open yet. It's a PR which will, I'm thinking Infrastructure MD. And Infrastructure MD will have this diagram to begin with that will capture our setup. I think that's really nice. We can tag it. Kaizen 7, Kaizen 8, we can see how these things change over time. I want to try it out.
The end result of this is super cool. Definitely check the show notes, or maybe we can put it even as the chapter image of right now so people with chapters can look at it. The text is complicated, man. How did you learn to write this? Or did something generate this based on drag and drop things like draw.io, or you wrote this yourself by hand?
I wrote this myself, yeah. So I had
handcrafted mermaid text.
Handcrafted. Exactly all of it, yep.
No GUI?
No, nothing.
Well, if you consider your editor a GUI.
So on one monitor, I had mermaid-js.github.io open, which is a reference like for all things mermaid. I had my flowchart open and I saw examples there. And on the other monitor, I had mermaid.live, which was split in half. The left-hand side half was the diagram, which I was writing, like the actual code, if you wish, the mermaid DSL. And on the right-hand side, I could see a live representation of every single character press. It's really nice. So I had like live preview, instant live preview. So as I was, trying to capture, the things which I was trying to put in this chart, I could see how that changes the graph. And once I was done, copy pasted in our GitHub. That was it.
So is mermaid.live a startup? Is it a open source thing?
I don't know. I just found it. Oh, this looks interesting. And then I was like, for hours and hours, I was engrossed in writing mermaid, learning and writing mermaid.
Is that third-party thing? I guess I could just go to the web URL and see what is there. But is that part of the flow of this, or it's just like they created a spec and some tooling, and then GitHub integrated their tooling? Like, I don't know what mermaid.live is. Hold on, let me look it up.
Yeah, let's look it up. I know it's like, yeah, let's check it. I used it and it worked really well. It was like, I don't know who creates this, like a live editor, Mermaid Live editor. I think it's hosted. This site is powered by Netlify. That's what I see. But I don't know who's behind the service, to be honest.
Yeah, so when you load it up, it literally is the editor. Like mermaid.live takes you to the editor that Gerhard described. There's no like about us or pricing page or anything, which I guess is kind of a good sign. Clicking through to the GitHub, it's mermaid-js that's in charge of this thing. And they don't have much about them either. There's a Twitter handle that says create diagrams and visualizations with text. Official handle of the mermaid.js open source project. So maybe that explains it right there. It is an open source project with a domain that hosts the editor where you can you can get your mermaid stuff. And then you just like copy paste from that into your markdown inside of GitHub and it renders.
That's right.
This is a blog post, Gerhard. This is a blog post.
I think it is, yeah, for sure. We used to do these every year, but I think there's another one coming for sure. December will be a good month. That's what I'm thinking. Reminiscing, capturing like a good retro month and capturing all these things. So the one thing which I want to mention is that the mermaid in GitHub, and by the way, this GitHub Markdown has native support for mermaid. So you have like the backticks, 3 backticks, and you define it as mermaid, and then you start writing mermaid. And it's like code, like any code that you would put. So that's really nice. Mermaid.live has some extra features. So if you copy our mermaid from this discussion and you put it in Mermaid Live, you'll see some extra things, like for example, icons, fav icons for fly, phoenix, things like that. Yes.
Oh, snap.
So when you're in the discussion, you have that copy. So there's like the 2 arrows pointing in left and right that expands the chart, and the button to the right is the copy button. So if you click on copy, you go to Mermaid Live and you copy paste that chart, see what happens.
Trying it. They should have a button that instead of copy says open in Mermaid or something.
That would be nice.
Uh-oh, it says long diagram detected.
Yes.
Turn off autosync? Okay.
Yeah, I think it disables autosync. You need to enable autosync, which is the toggle just above the code.
I did.
And then you refresh.
Cool. So like, for instance, Docker Hub has the Docker icon.
Yeah, Pingdom has a Grafana, a bunch of things like that. So I really like that.
Fancy schmancy, Gerhard. You're really going to the next level. You nerded out on this.
So some of these things can even be animated. I didn't go that far.
Boy.
I didn't have time. Exactly. Arrows that move and change. And like before you know it.
You can show the path of a request through our system.
Yeah, exactly. That would be really nice. Yeah. So that's cool. I'm glad that you enjoy it.
I do enjoy it.
Cool.
I enjoy how much you enjoy it.
You have such patience for things like this. Like, I do not have the patience. Well, sometimes I do, but I can see how you have good artifacts that come from obsessions. You know, like that's what this is.
Isn't this like a
passion for detail? That's what I would call it, right? And you want to go further and you keep refining and refining. I mean, you don't do it in one session. Maybe you have 3 sessions. You know, an hour and a half. Okay, so how can I improve this a little more? That's what it is. And you keep refining it and you see the final like, whoa, this thing is amazing. And I spend maybe 6 hours in total, but broken down in 3-4 sessions.
right. And there's a little wins along the way, which gets you to the next spot. And then you realize you can put feedback. This is a quintessential yak shave, isn't it? Like you just shaved this yak all the way down to its bare.
Pretty much. It's a nice yak. That's
It's a mermaid.
It's a mermaid. That's a good
It's
one.
a mermaid. Oh, cool. Very cool.
Now, let's talk about something that, in a way, captures my whole year. I know this was not meant to be retrospective. This is the last Kaizen, and I saved the best for last. So one of the things that we've been using since November 2021 was Dagger for our pipelines. Why Dagger? Well, it allows you to run CI/CD locally, right? It allows you to run the pipeline locally. And the reason why that's nice is because you don't have to commit and push to see what is the effect of this change. You can run the pipeline locally. And then when it comes to commit and pushing, guess what? Your CI/CD system, whatever it is, it will run exactly the same pipeline. So in November, episode 33, Ship It 33, you can listen to why we did it and a couple of other things. But we were using Dagger version 0.1. In the meantime, Dagger version 0.2 was shipped. That was end of March, April, and that was Q-based. And people liked it, but it was Q, and it was weird for many. And some struggled. So Dagger version 0.3 shipped.
YAML?
Nope. That's a step back. That's not an improvement, Jared. That's not how this works.
Oh, okay, good. I thought you were going to say YAML.
Yeah. No. It's actually the language that you use. So if you write Go, you can now declare your pipeline in Go, and you can run it in Go. If you use Node.js, TypeScript, you can do that. If you really want Q, there's Q still there. Now, there's not support currently for Elixir. We could add it. They're just SDKs. So
Is it a transpiler? Does it transpile to Q then?
no,
No?
there's GraphQL behind the scenes. So the interface to the engine, the engine that runs the pipeline and it orchestrates everything, puts up an API, which is GraphQL, and it does all the magic. So anything that can make GraphQL calls can declare a pipeline and can run a pipeline. So the next big thing, and maybe, I don't know whether it will be finished by the time this Kaizen goes out, which is in this case next week, but soon after, I want to add a pipeline written in Go, because it's a cloud native language. That would be the upgrade from 0.1 to 0.3. In this case, Go SDK 0.4, Dagger Go SDK 0.4, that anyone can run locally. And then our CI, we can get tests locally, we can have a bunch of things. And this opens, again, it's the best bits of Docker, but without Docker. In a nutshell, for pipelines.
Is that your guys' new marketing slogan? The best bits of Docker without Docker?
No, that's just me saying it.
Well, submit that to the CMO. See what he thinks.
For those that listen, and don't know yet, I do work at Dagger since January. So it's been 11 months now, close to 12 months. It's close being to a year, by the way.
We wouldn't normally run a 0.1 tool unless we had inside
No, you wouldn't.
access, right? 0.1 is pretty early.
Very early, yeah. I think we are one of the very few ones that run it in production. Now, that's the thing that has been running every single commit since November. And apart from the Docker engine, by the way, Docker is needed as a shim to get BuildKit, but BuildKit is the interesting one. It was the interesting component, and that is slowly changing because the Dagger engine, as it's being built, it's less and less BuildKit and more its own thing. It was just like a stepping stone, same as Docker is a stepping stone. But BuildKit is the interesting bit right now, and that will change soon. So the reason why we want that is because we don't want to be writing YAML, and we don't want to be writing anything else that looks weird. Now, we may not be able to write Elixir right now, but it's an option in the future. If someone wants to contribute that SDK, why not? Lars, that's the first person that comes to mind.
So is this a move back? I mean, not back, but is this a move in the direction of imperative configs? Because you have a full programming language at your disposal. You're coding now. You're not like doing some DSL or declaring your infrastructure, your pipeline. You're coding it.
You're coding something that makes GraphQL calls. So they're all very functional. Okay, so you run this function and it gives you back a response. And then what do you do next? So because you're thinking in terms of functions, in terms of artifacts, it is a pipeline, a real pipeline in the sense that it does operations, it gets results, and maybe it continues with those operations. The nice thing is you get to use your own language for the looping. For anything that you would do, templating, any weird things that you may want to do, you get to use your language. If there's any library, for example, to integrate with 1Password, you get to use your language. You don't have to find a CLI or this like weird thing to integrate with a service. If there is a library for your language, that's all you need. So that is one of the advantages.
Well, I happen to know a pretty good functional language that's good at pipelines.
I know, right?
Elixir seems like a pretty good fit for this.
Pretty much, yeah.
But Go's a good, cool start for us, for sure.
I mean, it's something really lightweight and something that's supported. So version 0.3, that makes me really excited because we can get rid of some Q, we can get rid of some make files as well. We can get rid of all the make files, and we can use a mage file, which is makefile but in Go. Rake, remember rake? Mage is like rake. Think of it like that.
Okay, for Go.
For Go, exactly.
All right.
So that's the next big thing.
Sounds pretty cool.
Now, what else is coming for you between this Kaizen and the next one? Any last thoughts before we wrap up?
I didn't prepare for this being the last one for the year. I'm excited the shirts are here. I'm excited the improvements have been happening. I don't know. That's about it for me. I'm excited that these discussions are open now too for these episodes. Like I feel like it's more of an integration for the listeners to play a part, you know, see what's going on behind the scenes.
Do you remember when we used to do this once per year?
I do. Yeah.
That's how we started, once per year. Look at that. Look at us every 2.5 months. This is pretty good.
Is this the right clip? Should we be doing it less or more? Or just right? Something worth thinking about. Maybe ask you, the listener, these Kaizen episodes, do you like them less or more than all the other ship-its? Because if it's a lot more, I don't know, maybe we have to make adjustments. If it's the same, then we just keep it as is. If it's less, maybe we should stop doing these. I guess maybe we should Kaizen our Kaizen and hear from the listener and ask you if this is something we should do at the exact same rate or more or less, what you all think. How can we make it better? And then we'll know for next time.
I really like that.
In terms of things that I want to work on, there's a long list, lots of little things. I guess probably expect a lot more little commits from me. We have a couple of big initiatives that probably won't land by the next Kaizen. So more small changes. I would like to see some outside contributors now that we have the new contributing guide. I've never been good at providing low-hanging fruit for people to reach for and grab. Maybe I can put some effort towards that with my list of little things. Hang them out there as, good first issues or ways of getting involved for people. Maybe that can be a goal for me over the next couple of months.
I think so too. I mean, we already had 2 very nice contributions, external contributions for this Kaizen. That was very nice to see. So if we can get 2 for the next one, that is amazing. I mean, 1 we didn't merge yet. So the feeds, the RSS feeds, I'm sure we will discuss in the next one. But I'm sure there are other things. Again, I don't know what they are, especially like the small ones. And, I'm mostly focused on the infrastructure side of things, and that requires access and things like that. But from the app perspective, I'm sure there are other things. Dark mode, especially in these dark, like long nights, I would appreciate dark mode.
We might be working on something in that arena as well.
Ooh, interesting.
Let's invite some folks in. So if you're listening to this, you're thinking like, wow, gosh, I've gone to the repo. I don't see these lack of low-hanging fruit that Jared's talking about. Like, how can I get involved? The easiest way, honestly, is just changelog.com/community. You can hang out in the dev channel, or I would say even the Ship It channel. They're sort of semi-synonymous in asking questions around this front. So you can go into Ship It and ask questions about the show or whatever, or you can go into dev, which we have pull requests that are there and things like that happening, commits that are in there. But you can always ask questions. And if you're thinking like, hey, I love a t-shirt and I love to contribute, give me a direction. And, if it's worthy enough, obviously, then we'll give you that direction and give you a shirt and a code or whatever. But that's probably the easiest way, is like, be a part of the community. Come on in. And that's how we wrap up the year too. We have a state of the log coming up too, where we go through the state of the change log over the year, which is sort of the show itself and also sort of overarching of the entire CPU, the changelog podcast universe, so to speak, that's growing. But it begins with people, right? It's all about the people. So come on in. You're welcome. Hang your hat. Call it home. We'll make you tea, coffee, favorite water, give you some slippers. Chill out.
And if you don't want to sign up for Slack, that's okay too. We have these discussions on GitHub. You're already there. We know that. Discussion 433. Drop us a comment. We're all subscribed and getting notifications for that. So that works too. I think it's time to call it.
I think so.
That's it.
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Right? Not in that order. And Kaizen.
Yes.
And Kaizen.
Kaizen.
Get your shirt.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of Ship It. Check out our other podcasts for developers at changelog.com/master. You can connect with like-minded developers via changelog.com/community. Thank you, Fastly, for the worldwide, low-latency changelog.com. Our listeners love those blazing fast MP3s. Your Firecracker VMs and that WireGuard integration are really sweet, Flat.io. That's it for this week. See you all next week, when we will be talking to Mauricio Salatino and Whitney Lee about their KubeCon keynote. What a rush! Let's deploy straight to production.